Good afternoon and welcome to another week of the Voice of the Caribbean. Welcome. This week we're going to be featuring our women across the Caribbean, women who've been achievers, women who've accomplished much in the United States. And I'm just so honored to have you here joining us this afternoon. The conversation will be candid but welcoming. And in a moment, you'll meet our two guests. We're honored to have one representing the island of Barbados and one from the homeland of Jamaica. So, without any further ado, we just want to welcome our two guests, Michelle Almond and our sister Cheryl Reed Payne from the island of Barbados. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
Welcome. Thank you for having me. And I am fine. I am blessed and highly favored.
Oh, to God be the glory, my sister. We say that across the globe. Sister
Yes.
Mia, who we refer to as the Sister Michelle Almond, who we refer to affectionately as Mia. How are
Yes,
you?
I am doing wonderful, blessed. I can't complain.
Okay. So we see the flag behind you, the little symbol behind you there, Mia.
Yes.
You can't miss those three colors anywhere we go in the globe. So
Mhm.
listen, today before we do anything else, I wanted to just take a moment to welcome our audience or viewers across the world. Those of you who are watching us on Tempo TV, on Callaloo Network, across the Bloomberg networks, and just to thank our friends and our producers there across the globe, but particularly in the US Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for our producers who are standing there as always, holding it down. A special tribute to Anthony Weeks, who has been the founder of so many of these broadcasts here on the network. But sisters, let's get into it. The world today is seeing a very unique time. And as women who are believers and just faith oriented and strong willed, I want to take a moment to just not go into prayers because some networks might be offended, but just to have a good thought for people who are feeling the challenges today.
Mhm.
And for those of us who are from regions, because us folks from the Caribbean, we have never had to deal with war,
Mhm.
the kind of military acumen we see happening in our regions. Before, our wars are usually spiritual wars, right? And or just the
Yes.
economic challenges or just things we face on a day-to-day experience. But in our lifetime, we've come to see what's going on in the world today. And I just wanted us to take a moment for one, for from the United States today, we're recognizing, I think we now heard there are seven fallen heroes who have represented our country, the United States, wearing the armed flags. I want to take this moment for the mothers who are missing their children today. And those of us, because one of the things we as Caribbean people and folks from across the world have always been is that we're military driven. For some reason, we come to this United States and across the globe, we get into the military, right? And maybe it's a discipline we had from school. We'll talk a little about that as the program moves in. But before we move any further, I just want us to take the first minute to recognize the fallen, to just have a moment of silence for those mothers who are grieving today and family members across the world. We've lost seven US veterans, militaries today. So let's pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, my sisters. Thank you for just being the mothers you are. Listen, I'm subtly excited because both of you I've come to know. And let me just start by saying, how did I come by selecting these two women? Now, one of the things you both have in common, and I'm not even sure you know each other, is that you both have been recognized in the United States for congressional awards for
Mhm.
being recipients of the Caribbean Heritage Award. And that's not a normal award because that recognition provides your legacy here in the United States to be journaled in the Library of Congress for your having come to these United States from your island home, in this case from Jamaica and Barbados, because of your Caribbean lineage to be recognized. And I just wanted to say congratulate you today I know it's not yesterday, but I think you both have been, I think one is in 2001 and one is in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. But you are veterans and we honor you, celebrate you, and we thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
So we're going to start out by I'll go with Barbados for starts because that's the alphabetical choice, right? So Barbados, my sister Cheryl Reed Payne hails from the island of Barbados, and those arrows I've always said it's the logo that's on the Maserati. What exactly is that logo, sister? Those three sword-looking swords. I've always said, "Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful," because I love a Maserati. Okay, but listen, the Barbados has become very, very, very known to the world now, particularly because we're led by a woman who has been leading this country. She's recognized across the globe. And more importantly, I just want to hear you, my sister Cheryl, as an educator, as one who has served in the health field, one who's had her own school. Sister Cheryl, who is Cheryl? Who are you?
Thanks for the question. Well, I was I was born in Barbados, and I migrated to England when I was 11 years old. So most of my, I would say most of my upbringing was until 11 in Barbados, where I was raised by my great grandparents who instilled in me how to care and how to love and how to share. And so when I migrated to England, that's exactly what I did. I went to school there and learned how to be very loving and caring and diplomatic and respectful to others, but most of all, learning how to love each other. And so from a young age, that was instilled in me, and I kept it going. And once I was in England and migrated then to the United States. And that's where most of my work was done in the United States, where I went to school and I became a nursing assistant. There again, the love of others, caring for others. And then I joined many organizations, but the most prevalent one is the Caribbean and Floridian Association, which is called CAFA. And
Mm.
I am the chaplain of that association. I am the recording secretary of that association. And we do so much good in the community. We give away turkeys at Thanksgiving. We visit the nursing homes and give them gifts at Christmas. And I personally would go out and shop for those gifts for the elderly. And because my heart has always been for the elderly and for the little children, I always make a joke and say that in the middle, they have to fend for themselves. But that's not really true. I just say that. My heart is with everyone. And I enjoy taking care of people, looking out for them, uplifting them. I also write poems and I do that to uplift people. My ministry in the morning is sending out morning blessings to many people, people who I know and people who I don't know. I just think that it is so important what's going on in the world today that we need someone to send someone just something to make them smile or something to uplift their spirits to take them away from the moment of what's really going on around us today. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but I think that it's important that we pray, whether we are praying to whomever we choose to call our creator. I think that it is very important to pray. And
Cheryl,
so,
I couldn't agree with you anymore. This is so true. And I want to thank you again for your dedication and for your leadership within the CAFA organization. of just where I actually met you some years ago.
Yes,
Congratulations.
you did.
And I'm also getting your morning prayers. So thank you again for the inspiration as we go on.
You are so welcome. You're so
Sister
welcome.
Mia, let us just take a
Yes.
moment to just recognize you. Sister Mia Michelle Almond is one who I've known for a couple of decades here in the state of Florida. And Mia has accomplished much. But one of the greatest achievements that Mia has is a network. She has created an organization that steers women. And I would like for you to speak about that in a minute, Mia,
Yes.
because it is so important. You have gone ahead even before we all did collaboratively. You went ahead and you created a Caribbean focused body of women some years ago, and a magazine to to feature those ladies of achievement as well. And again, I want to thank you for, at some time ago, years ago, you didn't recognize me as well as one of your recipients.
Mhm.
But beyond that, I think the greatest achievement I see and I have come to appreciate is Maya's strength as a cancer survivor.
Yes.
And Mia, this conversation is going to be so engaging because I know how strong you are when it comes to inspiring others. Who is Mia Almond? Tell us, tell your viewers across the world. Who are you?
Wow. Mia Almond is so many things, but as a born Jamaican from Kingston St. Andrew, that later migrated from Pennsylvania to from Canada into Pennsylvania to New York to here in Florida, has accomplished so many things. And it's by the grace of God. 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, survived that. And then after that, I wanted to do something, given this second chance in life. And I created a magazine called Caribbean Under One, um, doing that and featuring our Caribbean culture. Because attending events, I found that some people, we come to these events, we big up our colors and everything, and we have no idea what it stands for, even down to the flag. What do colors in the flag mean? What is the national symbols? So I wanted to highlight that. And after that, I created Ribbons of Survivors. And that started off to highlight breast cancer survivors, or those that were, still being diagnosed with that. And it led more into chronic illnesses and conditions that we celebrate these individuals. They share their stories to help others that are going through the same thing. And I wasn't done yet. And then after that, I did Women of Culture. And that creation stand from when I was young. I was culture discriminated in school because I didn't speak like the rest of the people. They would tease me, and you didn't look a certain way. And I used to go home and cry to mommy. I said, Mommy, the people don't like me. They don't like how I talk. And one of the things that she always instilled in me is to be proud of who you are and your birthplace. And for those that do not know, you educate them, because the ignorance, or because they don't know. So kept celebrating. That's the whole thing, Women of Culture. And I found that talking to other women, that they were scared to speak with their accent around what I call the white collar world. And, and I shared with them, I said, you can speak with your cultural accent and be professional. And if they ask, share your beautiful culture, from there. And that's where that stands for, an honoring women to be proud of who they are and be their accent and everything. And I also created Men of Culture to do the same thing. And then after that, I was like, what else can I do? My friend, mine always teased me and called. I don't know if you heard of this cartoon called Pinky and the Brain, like Pink, always trying to take brain, always trying to take over the world.
Mhm.
So then during COVID time, I went and got my certification as a life coach. Then after that was health and nutrition coach, then self-care. Then I became a master life coach. to specialize in as a mental health counselor and practitioner, because when I'm talking to women or individual, that not only the mindset have to be right, the physical aspect and your spiritual, all those have to entwine together. So that was my goal of giving back and teaching individuals that no matter what challenges you go through, you can get through it, you know, and and other things that, became a radio host, photographer, videographer.
Well, me, I have to stop you right there because you are an enterprise in itself. The woman I
Mhm.
met years ago, I met you with a camera at a Caribbean show.
Yes.
A photographer with a press pass. I was backstage, and I remember I
Mhm.
met you there first. But let us just thank you again on behalf of everyone across the globe who's watching on our networks. I am taking this opportunity to recognize these two women today, women of influence, of character, and those who have been leading in their own capacities, representing their own flags, their country, their birthplaces, from Barbados and from Jamaica, and in your case, Mia, from Canada as well, and in your case, Cheryl, from England as well, because this is kind of how the migration happened for many of us in the Caribbean region. So here we are today,
Yes.
one who's been an educator, one who's been in media relations, and you continue to do your part. Let me ask a question because I know that we're facing a very unique time,
Mm,
particularly as an educator, Cheryl. You see
yes.
the challenges that we've experienced in this country. But earlier we talked about we were recognizing the military. Where we're from, we wore uniforms to school, right?
Mhm.
And I've always wanted to ask
Yes.
a question to an educator, one who not only taught school, was born in Barbados because you had to wear school under the British regime, but you went to England and then you came here as an educator. Tell me a quick question. We won't spend too long on this because it's always trying to question, triggered me as it relates to discipline. Do you believe wearing uniform in school created a
Yes,
certain
I
level of
do.
discipline for students?
I do believe that the children should wear uniforms. It distinguishes them from the other kids outside if they're not in school, and for the most of all for the parents as well. As growing up and having to wear a uniform, it was very important for the parent to have at least maybe two uniforms. Some of us were lucky to have more than two, but to have two uniforms where you can wash them and put them back on and look neat, and they didn't have to worry about what to give the children to wear that day, or if the children were going to dress inappropriately. And so I have seen so many school children dress inappropriately for school. And so that's why I think that it is very important that they should wear their uniform so that their focus is on schoolwork and not which sneakers or crop top or whatever cut up jeans or whatever they might be wearing. And for the boys, not a distraction from their work to check out what the girls are wearing, and vice versa. So
Okay.
yes, I do think that we should wear uniforms.
Uniforms are appropriate. Okay. I know it sounds
Yes.
like a very far-fetched question, but having both of you on the call who both have gone through schools that were uniformed, and as women, since we're focusing on the women's issues today, I concur. I agree with you. I do believe it takes away the responsibility of expenses, fashionable, wanting to be like the others type of a thing, and the responsibility of just wanting to be like my friends. And it becomes an economic benefit to families to at least know you're going to wear the same thing to school for a year unless you grow it out. What's your take on that, Mia? We'll spend a minute on that before we go into our next
Wow.
show.
Yes, and in Jamaica, yes, I did wear, uniform, and it was just something, a pride, because you have the white shirt and it's crisp and nice and pleated, clean. And it just gave that prestige look of honor going to school. And I think that, as you mentioned, it sets us aside from others.
Well, I also want to agree with you on that note, Mia, that there's a discipline that comes with it,
Hmm.
a uniform that it creates a responsibility of
Yes.
being tardy, of just being presentable, and knowing your shoes had to be tied or your loafer had to be polished. So I believe it did create some level of responsibility for decorum and for presentation. So let's move beyond that. One of the things that Caribbean women have been known to do is to be economists, meaning that they were usually the breadwinners. They would work hard, husbands might work, but nonetheless, you had the pig, you had the you kept the money bag if you were in a relationship with a partner. Somehow, women from the Caribbean have always had a resource, a stash somewhere. And so we're in a situation now where every time you turn the TV on, you're hearing about the economic hardship. And so I want to know, Cheryl, from Barbados at an early stage, is that a cultural practice for women to really keep the money, the coffers? Is there a practice of having a reserve? How does that work? Because somehow people believe there was a pattern in the Caribbean where people used to have what we refer to as a Ponzi scheme in America. But in the Caribbean region, people would almost coach here how they raise money. They would put their resources together, advance one group of people, or rotate how they were going to pay their bills. Tell me, Cheryl, how was it in Barbados as it referred to economics from your memory as a woman in the family? Can you hear us, Cheryl? I don't think she's hearing us. Cheryl, are you hearing us? May you respond until we get
Yeah.
Cheryl's stuff back?
As a young age, my mother and I had a strong Jamaican woman that always educated her children, especially me and my sisters, to always, you have that separate account, because I even watch her where, there's one account that pays the bills, and then she has her account, and then spouse has his account, but she always has, because of case anything happened, you never want to be left stranded, period. So that's something that I've always instilled, that you have that secure thing no matter what relationships you're in. And being a single mother, you have to learn how to budget to maintain, every day taking care of children, whatever expenses come up, but you still have that safety um, uh, savings away with that. So yes, I was taught that at an early age, that, and I think it's, growing up as a Caribbean, you know.
So Maya, so this conversation, are you able to hear us, Cheryl? Like, can you hear us? Are you hearing us, Cheryl? At an early age, we now know that the responsibility of uniforming or uniformed, a practice of uniform, and a practice of having a reserve savings as children. But I think one of the things that we have as Caribbean people across the world have always focused on, which has always been something, is the book of school, the book of rules, and it was education.
Mm-hmm.
And so the foundation, before we leave this program today, I'm going to be asking you, as Caribbean women who have been accomplished, Caribbean women who have been recognized for your leadership, before the show ends, I want you to put it in your spirit as to what you want to share to the world today. Not to telling us of your own accomplishments, but what you recommend from your own birthland. From the island of Marcus Garvey and from the affiliation of Shirley Chisholm, in Cheryl's case. What is it you believe as a Caribbean woman should be shared with the world today? And we're going to go to our first commercial. So put that in your spirit. Tell us what it is you believe as a Caribbean woman that your contribution and your teachings, your bringing, should be used to empower others. Let's move to our first commercial until we get Cheryl's mics and stuff back up. Thank you.
Okay.
Reporting for our TV news. How high oil costs drive up the price of food and consumer goods. Oil prices and food prices move in lockstep with energy prices, affecting every stage of the food supply chain, from the fertilizer used in the fields to the trucks that carry food from the fields to supermarket shelves. Rising oil prices directly affect shipping and the cost of transportation. The lifeblood of the global economy is transport, said economist David McWilliams. It's getting stuff from A to B. It's a logistics problem, a supply chain problem. And ultimately, transportation is the energy of the global economy. Fears of stagflation, rising inflation, and rising unemployment, which major oil shocks have historically summoned, are rising. Economists pointed to the crises of 1973, 1978, and 2008 as evidence that every significant spike in oil prices has been followed in some form by a global recession. In lower-income countries, where populations spend a far greater share of their income on food and import large quantities of grain and fertilizer, rising oil prices could rapidly translate into food shortages. What products are made from oil and gas? Oil and gas are used for far more than just fuel. They are raw materials for thousands of everyday products. Plastics, including water bottles, food packaging, phone casings, and medical syringes, are all derived from crude oil. Crude oil is also the hidden ingredient in synthetic fabrics, such as polyester, nylon, and acrylic, which is in everything from sportswear to carpets. It also underpins the cosmetics industry in products that include petroleum jelly, lipsticks, and concealers. Household items also rely on oil-based ingredients, with laundry detergents, dishwashing liquids, and paints all derived from petroleum products. The global food supply is essentially built on natural gas in the form of fertilizer, used to enhance crop yields and ensure that food production can meet demand. This market research data is by AJ Lab, Al Jazeera, Case Capital Markets, and Third Wall Street News. For full report and more breaking, latest and developing news, go to www.ournewschannel.com, powered by Callaloo.
Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. Third Border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton, an American founding father, first U.S. Treasury Secretary, and architect of the U.S. financial system and modern America. Third Wall Street is located in a U.S. National Heritage Area, Opportunity Zone, and the boyhood home of Alexander Hamilton in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, connecting 3 financial hubs in the Americas by way of new innovative financial technology and markets: New York Wall Street South, Brickell Avenue, Miami, and Third Wall Street in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and established the new Caribbean America's Single Economy Zone, developed by SETI Case Capital Markets. Third Wall Street will transform financial markets, improving access to capital worldwide. Visit www.thirdwallstreet.com to learn more.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the Tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views. Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Imagine, if you will, a single point of connection that puts at your fingertips all of the things that we do in our daily lives with ease of access and convenience. Whether in your personal life, for work, travel, and entertainment with family, friends, and in your work life. The new OneConnect app is all you need to make your life more manageable and efficient in maximizing the best use of your time. The OneConnect app is your new connection in a world of busy people with lots to do and not enough time to get things done. OneConnect app was created with you in mind and is all you need. Download OneConnect app now. Also visit us at www.oneconnectapp.com.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
Welcome back to the Voice of the Caribbean. Our special guest this afternoon is Cheryl Reed Payne from the island of Barbados, a Congressional Award recipient of Caribbean Heritage Month, and Mia Almond, Michelle Almond from the island of Jamaica, who hails also a recipient of the Caribbean Heritage Month here in the United States, for their work of Caribbean leadership, development, and just women of the Caribbean who I took the moment to do that, to recognize these two ladies here in the United States because of the work they've done over these years. Mia, I think we're still having challenges with Cheryl's broadcast. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we're going to continue the conversation nonetheless.
Okay.
Mia, your magazine, we talked about what we were looking at as contributing factors to a Caribbean person here in the United States and what it is you believe you bring to the table, or just your legacy of Caribbean leadership. Tell us what you believe is the most important, fundamental part of your being a Caribbean woman, to share it with another generation of women who you believe. What do you think is most important?
Well, there's several things, and I just want to touch on them real quick. First one is cultural pride, embracing and celebrating your culture, no matter what it is. That's our identity. And the second is resilience, that life will, give us many challenges, but our struggles become the greatest lessons learned by it and teach others as well. Second, sisterhood. Many women struggle with sisterhood. And I'm telling you, when women grow stronger together, we support and uplift each other, and we don't tear each other down. We support each other.
Absolutely.
I can't, instill that enough. There's no competition. When one rise, we all rise.
Right.
And next is, coming from a life coach standpoint, protecting our mental, physical, and wellness. And that means, taking time for self-care, because we're not good to anyone if, no matter the struggles and challenges that we're going through, we got to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others and our families. And then leadership. And it's not always about the title. Even for me, as the president of the Jamaican American Association, for me, it's about serving and giving back and helping the next generation in our communities with that. And inspiring young people, because as growing up, we were taught by teachers, educators, and stuff. So we have to be that one as women to teach our young girls how to present themselves,
Right.
Very professionally, their manners and how they dress and everything, and to become not just ladies, but queens that, when they walk in the room, people can say, wow, who is that young lady there? So those are my things right there for to share with women. Again, love your culture, sisterhood,
Mm.
You know, support one another.
Competition, because we tend to have that as, competition is interesting because it also molds your character, because that's why we have so many pageantry from the islands. It's about not just creating your modesty, but also showing yourself above others. And it's not to say you're crushing anybody else, but it gives you that position of relevance and or just presentation. And so the world is competitive. We can't go beyond that. But you're suggesting that we mold ourselves from our cultural strength, but also with the ability to lose and to win with resilience, right?
Yes.
So one who is coming from having fought a good fight as a cancer survivor, because not many people can relate to that.
Yeah.
And still after a quarter of a century, Mia continues to rise. I know you were recently elected as the president of the Jamaican organization that you serve in. But I also know that one of the things I came to know you about was, in fact, the Kyo magazine, I think it is called.
Yes.
And that was where I saw where you were annually, I think it was, or quarterly, you would recognize women or Caribbean people on a whole, because I think men also were involved in the magazine.
Yeah.
But you would find these folks who were doing good things and were creating that sense of recognition while giving these people a platform to present themselves. How is that going?
That's going good, and sometimes, we may see someone, doing good on the outside, but there's also another side. And that's what I also like to tap into, that what are your struggles? Because we see you out there dressed nice, speaking and everything, but people want to know things that they don't see.
Yes.
That there is a different side, and that lets them know they're human and they can inspire others. So yeah, when I seek for, those for interview, I don't want to know all the good, because we already see the good, but what is the bad that can help others, whether it's another male or another woman, rise above and kind of relate to, I'm going through that, and listen to that story and how that individual achieved and rised up from that.
So part of what you just expressed to us, to our audience, is really part of the Caribbean culture.
Yes.
We from the Caribbean have always been taught to put your best foot forward. Not there is a certain level of respect and how we present ourselves.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter where you come from, a humble, modest environment, you are going to be somebody. That was always something that from every island I've been through in the Caribbean, we've experienced that. And I think that's part of what you're describing, that a lot of folks from the Caribbean, no matter how things seem, they present themselves as kings or queens, right?
Yes, that's how we were taught.
so for that reason, you lose sometimes in not being, because we're in a society that is colorful and explosive to an extent. Wrong term during this time, but there's so much public awareness.
Yes.
It creates that sense of it's something that we don't relate to well, that we're not public in our private lives, and so it's something that people seem to be more open to sharing their private business. Maybe it's part of who we are, because you just said it. You people are accomplished, but there's their private struggles.
Yes.
That people have in their lives, and that's something that I believe, from a cultural experience, we have had that.
And I think some of them look at it, if I share those bad things, that's a sign of weakness. Especially when it comes to mental challenges, that we're, taught to not talk about our feelings. And there's that stigma with it. And we have to learn to let go of that stigma and be open and talk, and not sit in silence to where we are having thoughts of suicide, want to commit suicide. Because I mean, I've been there, and sometimes people said I'm the voice of the voiceless, and I want to encourage everybody that it's okay to share, those weakness, because again, those are learning lessons that make you rise up, for resilience.
On that note, we're going to go to commercial, because I think that's something that as Caribbean people and people across, Caribbean people suicide is now growing in our community. But
Yes.
we'll talk about that when we come back, because the strength, that's a good topic for us to just take a quick break on. Let's get to the commercials to pay these bills. We'll be right back here on the Voice of the Caribbean, talking to our two guests today.
The US dollar dominates global trade. In 2019, some 88% of international transactions involved US dollars. No other currencies came close. That gives the US extraordinary power over nearly anyone who imports or exports anything anywhere. Commodities like oil, gold, and coffee are all priced in dollars, regardless of where they come from. But this clout has long frustrated America's rivals, making them vulnerable to US trade sanctions. Here's how the global economy runs on the US dollar, and why some countries are developing alternative systems that could chip away at the dollar's dominance.
The dollar came to dominate trade after World War II. The US was the biggest economy in the world. Other countries were trying to rebuild, and the dollar, it was stable and plentiful.
In 1944, a conference of 44 nations agreed to peg their currencies to the US dollar, while the dollar itself was pegged to gold. As global trade grew, so did the use of the dollar to conduct the world's business. Even after the United States abandoned the gold standard in 1971, the dollar remained the world's currency of choice.
The world has gotten used to doing business in dollars because it's just easier than doing business in any other currency. The dollar is incredibly liquid, meaning it's easy to buy and sell things all over the world. The US banking system is very efficient, and those things combine to make it cheaper for businesses to buy and sell in dollars.
Here's how a typical international transaction works in US dollars. A Canadian lumber company sells boards to a French home builder. The buyer's bank in France and the seller's bank in Canada settle the payment in dollars via correspondent banks in the United States. These correspondent banks have accounts at the United States Federal Reserve. The money is transferred seamlessly between these banks' Fed accounts because their status as correspondent banks means they are seen as safe counterparties. The United States says the use of these correspondent banks means every transaction technically touches US soil, giving it legal jurisdiction and compelling foreign countries to abide by its laws on money laundering and corruption.
After 9/11, the US used the power of the dollar to advance its foreign policy goals. The idea was to cut out the sources of funding for terror organizations.
The US used its control of the dollar to increase surveillance of global money flows and curb financing toward bad actors. It did this by imposing sanctions on its rivals. Under the system, if a business or country tries to trade with a sanctioned entity in dollars, the US has the power to cut off its access to US currency. But other countries have been building workarounds. Some EU countries opposed the US sanctions against Iran. These sanctions, put in place after the US withdrew from the Iranian nuclear deal in 2018, included banning dollar transactions with Iranian banks. As a result, the EU is developing a euro-backed system that is designed to facilitate trade between Europe and Iran without sending money across borders.
The EU countries still in the Iran deal are trying to figure out a way to work around the US system so they can trade with Iran. Now that bothers the US, which is trying to exert maximum pressure on the Iranian economy.
India already has an alternative payment system in place that it's using to do business with Iran. According to a Wall Street Journal investigation, it's been used to facilitate transactions with sanctioned Iranian entities. But the United States is still exerting its influence in the Middle East through the power of the US dollar.
The dollar still dominates global trade. You can see that in the standoff between the US and Iraq. Iraq says they want to throw US troops out of the country. The US said, we'll cut you off from your dollars in the US system. But in the future...
Welcome back to the Voice. Mia, my loyal guest. We're having technical challenges. I think we're still trying to get our second guest, Cheryl Reed Payne, back in, our educator and Congressional Award recipient. Oh, there you are. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, I do apologize to everyone. Uh, Technical difficulties,
We
and so
understand.
and so I do apologize.
Well, welcome back, Cheryl. Before one of the things that we're talking about is the fundamentals of people from the Caribbean, what we bring to these United States, right? And what
Yes,
it is that we have as a legacy. And we've gone through discipline and just the economic piece of how we as Caribbean mothers and women and our grandparents would save to make things happen, right?
yes,
But I also know that the idea of uniform created a level of discipline. And I wanted you to tell us from the island of Barbados, what do you see as something that really helped to mold your motherhood, or just to a contribution from a woman's standpoint that a Barbadian woman brings to society?
Well, first of all, respect. Respect is the biggest thing for your elders, for the people around you, and a loving, nourishing nature to share love, to be loving, especially to your children, to show them that you love them, to tell them you love them, because sometimes, in the islands, it's a little bit difficult sometimes for the parents to say, "Oh, I love you,"
Mhm.
but I had that, and so that's why I was able to bring it to showing to my children, to the children I teach, to because I took care of the babies from actually I was the educator for the babies from 2 months old until school age. And so that's the most important time in the child's life when their brain is being nourished, and that's when they need to learn about love. So that I show the motherly love. I teach them how to share. I teach them how to be kind to each other, how to say nice words to each other, not use their words to hurt each other. So yes, and that's an island thing, that we were raised with respect, that we should respect one another and show love to one another. And so I am very, very proud that I was raised in an island, both there and in England, to be very diplomatic and be very nice with your words.
Okay, so
Mhm.
respect, and not just respect, but respect of your elders, and to be
Yes,
respectful of your
yes,
peers was part of your
yes,
experience. I think
absolutely.
one of the things we have really the foundation of most of our struggle, which actually probably came from our African and or multicultural, as Mia would say, experience. Because in the Caribbean, we have at least 70 religions that's practiced. People don't know that. But we are multicultural, multilingual, and we're faith-based oriented. I think the foundation of most of our discipline, respect, decency, uniformity, literacy, all came from our faith. The
Yes,
foundation of our experience was always our faith, right? And I
absolutely.
mean, I speak on behalf of the three of us, but that was something you learned in school. You learn your prayers, morning, lunchtime, dinner time before you go to bed. You get to school, you have your morning prayers. You not only learned your island pledge, you learned your island prayer, your national anthems. There was always a process of faith
Yes.
that we were taught to keep us going. And it goes back to your point, Mia, that
Yeah.
what gave you resilience? What was the foundation of your resilience? To my point.
Uh, my resilience, I think, is my culture, most of all, because I see how, as a Jamaicans struggle. Just looking at, Hurricane Melissa, Hurricane Beryl, that we are not giving up. We're helping one another rebuild. You look at the whole nation is coming to help us as Jamaicans. Jamaicans, whatever, issues we have amongst each other, that's gone out the window. It's about helping one another. So that's that resilience of us, that we just keep pushing through. We don't let nothing tear us down.
So I think that's a really strong point on that piece, that there's a strength that comes from Caribbean women, from a
Yeah.
Caribbean lineage. Somehow, no matter what it happens, as I said, a dirty tough or something, I think I don't get that quite right, but the bottom line is that there's a sense of purpose that comes with us being there. And in most cases, people need to understand too that people from the Caribbean coming to the United States and other parts in the world, it was all for economics and or educational opportunities. Because we're going to run away from, in most cases, any kind of political distress. Well, I can't say for everybody, but in most cases, people left the islands to go try and make a better life. And in making a better life, they were always sending their money back home, which is why the notion of one of the biggest industries in Jamaica and in other Caribbean regions is the money transfers.
Yes.
It has always been in countries that, so I wanted us, our show's going to end in a few minutes and in another 10 minutes or so. But it was important to me to speak to you two ladies, two Caribbean mothers, I might add, who have accomplished their own merits and goals in the United States, because it's not easy for you to be picked out of millions of people who come from the islands to have received this kind of recognition. It says a lot about you as individuals. And on behalf of the people of the Caribbean today, and all women across our region listening to our programs today on Callaloo Network, on our affiliated networks, on Tempo, on One Love Connect, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for continuing to hold your heads up high, continuing to nurture our children, to continue to lift our sisters up, Mia. And I wanted to not forget the topic you were on about depression, suicide, and mental illness in our culture.
Yes.
Understand this, that there's always somebody to help you. Part of it, why we don't get help sometimes, is because of the secrecy, the privacy we've been brought up to know about, right? And so let's rely on our faith. Let us find the good friends we have, right, Sister Mia?
Yes,
Right?
friends.
Yes. Yes.
Let us not forget that, because one of the things we learn about is good friend better than pocket money, right?
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so it is important that you find that friend from a Caribbean space. Some of the friends you met in high school, right? Friends, sisters. The friends you met in primary school and high school, in most cases, are still your friends today.
Yes.
And so the foundation of friendship, like it was for those of us who are Christians, the relationship that Christ had with his disciples who he chose was real. And so I just want us today to just recognize women from across the globe. For the remainder of this month, we're going to be focusing on women leaders across the countries, across the Caribbean basin. But let me ask you both for a minute. Tell us today, your listening audience across the world, Sister Cheryl, leave us with an inspiration, a word to your fellow Barbadians or folks from the Caribbean regions that you represent. Leave us with a good inspiration. Let's take a minute of your time to do that.
Okay. Well, as you know, I said that I write poems. And so I am going to answer your question in the form of a poem. Is that okay?
Please do. We're honored.
Okay. It says, women of the world and the Caribbean, you are gems. You are roses. You are powerful. Step up and step out of the shadows and let your light shine. Love, protect, nourish your fellow mankind. For those women who have gifts of invention, inspiration, and prayers, my hat's off to you. For those who have been noticed, keep shining. For those who have not been noticed, keep inspiring and inventing. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Together we unite, and together we rise, together we strive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my sister Cheryl, for sharing that with us. That's inspiring, absolutely inspiring.
Thank
and
you.
To our viewers across the Caribbean region, from the island of Aruba. We thank you for tuning in today. And we're going to continue to inspire you. We want you to continue to be watching our programs as we build out to include you in these features. Sister Mia, give us a minute as well of what you believe you want to share with our audience across the world.
Just to share, the topic we were just talking about as far as, mental health. I want to say to all the women and anyone out there that strength doesn't mean suffering in silence. It means having the courage to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness whatsoever. It just get help, get to the root of the problem, and learn to love yourself. Because I know many of us, we struggle to love ourselves, and be proud of who you are, where you come from, whatever cultural heritage you're from, and share it to the world. Share it to the world, and know that no matter, whatever struggle you go through, you fall down, get back up. It's going to be okay. There is a silver lining at the end of the road, and you have many people out there that are there to help you along the way.
On that note, I want to just continue because, as you know, there was so much devastation in the island of Jamaica, a category 5+ hurricane, and there is still so much to be done. I'm quite familiar of hundreds of female farmers in Jamaica who have been devastated. To this day, they're still struggling. Not just women, but because women have long been a nurturing part and the foundation of our Caribbean culture. They're holding on and holding out. There are a lot of people right now who are facing returning home to the islands from America and from Europe because of deportation issues. But I want to just encourage you all today that the resilience you hear on this show today, the health that you face, the depression that you might be needing to overcome, family challenges. We're going to go back to the foundation. As Sister Cheryl, who is a chaplain, says, your faith is a foundation.
Yes.
Don't forget to find your friends and your faith as women, right? Yes. Let us continue to be resilient and to not forget that no matter what you face, there is a tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yes.
There is a tomorrow. I want to thank you both for joining us. Mia Almond, Michelle Almond, who happens to be one of our leaders here in the state of Florida, and our sister Cheryl Reed, who happens to hail from the island of Barbados and Jamaica. We thank you for your recognition as Caribbean women. We thank you for the work you continue to do, and we want to just encourage you to do more. And for those of you viewing us from across the world today on Tempo Network, we want to invite you to come to One Love Connect, which is our network that you will watch The Voice of the Caribbean on every weekday on Wednesday at 12 noon, 12:30. We encourage you to continue to support our networks. You can watch us on Tempo, Caribbean Network, Calada Network, and across the Bloomberg affiliates. So we thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week, where we'll continue to speak to women across the globe who are from the Caribbean region, emphasizing, enlightening, and empowering us collectively. Blessings to you all. Continue to do your good work. And thank you for joining us here on The Voice of the Caribbean. Till we see you next week. God bless.
Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. third border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton. Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. third border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton, an American founding father, first U.S. Treasury Secretary, and architect of the U.S. financial system and modern America. Third Wall Street is located in a U.S. National Heritage Area, Opportunity Zone, and the boyhood home of Alexander Hamilton in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, connecting 3 financial hubs in the Americas by way of new innovative financial technology and markets: New York Wall Street South, Brickell Avenue, Miami, and Third Wall Street in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and established the new Caribbean America's Single Economy Zone developed by SETI Case Capital Markets. Third Wall Street will transform financial markets, improving access to capital worldwide. Visit www.thirdwallstreet.com to learn more.